What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is about a topic that a lot of content creators have already made videos about, and they all have their own opinions and own thoughts, and I do believe most of them are to a degree honest. But today I'm here to give my own perspective about what's going on in Battlefield 2042 right now in 2024 after more than 2 years of existence. And yeah, some of the people who are watching this video are new to Battlefield completely. They're new to the franchise, and they want to know whether or not it's going to work for them if they buy 2042. Some of you guys who are watching this video might be playing other Battlefield titles right now. Some people might be playing Battlefield 4. Some people might be playing Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5. And some people might be playing Battlefield 2042 right now, and they want to know what I think about the game and the state that it's in right now. So I believe this video is going to have something, at least something useful for all of you guys who are watching this video. That's how it's going to be. So yeah, but before we start, I want to acknowledge that I always appreciate your likes and your comments, your subscribes. You're helping the channel a lot by doing those kind of stuff. So if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because more like this are coming soon. And if you've got video ideas or you want something to be explained a bit more, do make sure to comment down below and let me know what that is. So hopefully I can make a video about it and explain it a bit more. So with all that said, let's just get on with the video. So about Battlefield 2042, as you guys all know, it just started awfully. It was a total mess. But for you guys who are new to the franchise, I have to admit that a lot of Battlefield games have started awfully. Like Battlefield 4 was a true masterpiece. Everyone was thinking that Battlefield 2042 should be something like Battlefield 4 with better graphics and some new maps and new weapons and stuff like that. That's how people remember Battlefield 4. It was a complete masterpiece by the time Battlefield 1 came out, like in 2017, I guess. So it was a perfect Battlefield game. Everybody knows that. Everybody loves Battlefield 4. But the thing about Battlefield 4 is it also started awfully. But DICE back then was a bit more consistent. They could just hold themselves accountable for the mess they made, and they just fixed it. That was quick. For Battlefield 4, that was quick, and the game just started to be what it meant to be, and then pushed further from there, and it became the legend that we all know today. Battlefield 5, even Battlefield 5 started awfully, and it just never became as good as Battlefield 4. And the only Battlefield title that I remember started perfectly was Battlefield 1. That game was awesome and remained awesome. That was a masterpiece itself. So yeah, all of Battlefield titles, almost all of them, started awfully. But the different thing about the previous titles and 2042 is how responsible DICE felt for making a mess. That's basically the difference. But today we're going to see what problems Battlefield 2042 was facing and what problems are fixed, what issues are still remaining. And you're going to have my honest opinion on whether or not it's time for you to consider buying this game or not. So the first thing that was kind of broken in the beginning of Battlefield 2042, one of the most important ones, of course, there was a lot of things broken, and like imagine you didn't have a scoreboard. Like, that's ridiculous. But one of the most important things was weapon recoil and how the general shooting experience felt in Battlefield 2042 back then in 2021. Everything was broken. You couldn't aim with a weapon and start shooting. Tap firing was not even a thing. Like, tap firing is one of the key elements in Battlefield's franchise. Everybody knows that. But it was not a thing back in the day. Not even today, tap firing is as important as it was, for example, in Battlefield 4. But yeah, things have got better over time when it comes to how shooting actually feels in Battlefield 2042. But yeah, since 2021 up until now, a lot of updates tried to kind of make the shooting experience better, and they were successful, I would say, to a degree. It really now feels better compared to what it was a year ago, even a year ago. I'm not comparing it to the launch because the launch was just awful, but it just got very, very better in that regard. And now tap firing is a thing, at least it exists. Like for a lot of weapons, you can just start spamming your left click for PC players, and whatever you shoot with a controller, you can just start spamming that and your bullets will be on target with pinpoint accuracy and everything will be fine. But generally speaking, it just got way better. Another very important problem that was kind of related to weapons was the hit registration. So the hit reg was just corrupted. It was ridiculous. You couldn't even shoot someone. Like DICE didn't even bother trying to fix it in the first place before releasing the game. I don't know how these guys even released that game in that state back in 2021, but they just did. About hit registration, things are way better than 2021, but you can still feel there's a problem going on. But generally speaking, it's now acceptable. I mean, you can feel that some things have changed over time and the general experience is way better than it was before, but it still has room for improvement, and I have to admit that they can even manage to make it better if they want to, because we don't even know how much more are they going to support Battlefield 2042, because there are rumors about a new Battlefield title and DICE recruiting people for destruction and all that kind of stuff. You guys have probably heard about those as well. But hit registration is way better, but it really has room for improvement even today. So yeah, about classes and specialists, some of you guys who have played the beta or have played the game in like early stages, you guys probably remember the game without classes. Well, the game now has classes actually. The specialists are kind of like divided into groups. Like every 3 to 4 specialists is in a class group right now. So we have assault class, engineering class, support class, and recon class, as you guys remember from other Battlefield titles, and that's kind of taken care of right now. But having specialists is still the elephant in the room. They just can't do anything about it. Right now, after more than 2 years, they're just a part of the game that you can't just remove. They're like a fundamental part of the game. They can't do anything about it, but I do believe they will not repeat this mistake of bringing specialists into a Battlefield game ever again, because that just ruined everything for Battlefield 2042 in the first place. So yeah, if you guys worry about classes, we do have classes right now, but it's not like how you imagine or how you remember from previous Battlefield titles, but at least we have some classes right now, and that's taken care of. Now, vehicle physics and how useful vehicles actually are in Battlefield 2042 was another important matter of discussion. Back in the day, you could just fly with a hovercraft. Like, you could start climbing buildings and stuff like that. Those things are now fixed. A lot of vehicle physics have been reworked. The gravity has been tweaked in the game. A lot of vehicles have received several updates to feel a bit more realistic compared to what they were back in the day when the game was launched. So yeah, generally speaking, the vehicles just feel better compared to Battlefield 2042 itself. I just can't compare the vehicles to something like Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 was just smooth with vehicles. Everything was smooth. Everything was easy to control. Everything was easy to use. Easy to use, but not easy to master. There's a lot of difference between them. Playing vehicles in Battlefield 2042 generally is way more easier than in Battlefield 4. It's like playing vehicles in Battlefield 4 is just way easier, but it's very, very harder to master a vehicle in Battlefield 4 compared to something like 2042. So that's still the problem. Maybe the complexity of the vehicles and the attachments made it so. I don't know the exact reason, but the vehicles just never feel like Battlefield 4 or even Battlefield 1. So that's also something to consider, that you're going to have a lot of people flying jets very easier, mastering jets very easier. Everyone's a pilot right now. Back in the day in Battlefield 4, you wouldn't come across a ton of people knowing how to be a good pilot. The perfect pilots were not to be found anywhere. It was like a bunch of few people that could master the art of being a pilot. But in 2042, things are a bit different, and you guys probably know that as well. Now, we've got live services and game support from EA DICE, and there's a bigger problem at hand right now, which is about lack of content. So the game has been lacking new content ever since the first day of launch up until right now. And the problem is they just can't keep up with the expectations. And about the expectations, people like Battlefield players don't expect anything so unnatural and so far away. It's not like that. It's like you have 3 months for a season, which DICE started to extend that 3 months to 6 months to 5 months, from season 5 to 6 and from season 6 to 7 now. They just add one new map to the game. Like 6 months, that's half a year for a season. And then you add one map and I don't know, like 3 weapons. That's not new content. And that is something that Battlefield 2042 is really lacking right now. Even from day one, diversity was fucked up. That's the best word to explain this. The weapon diversity was trash. The maps were, you had like 9 maps, 8 maps, and they were all trash, made for 128 player modes, which didn't even make sense. But now that the game has received a bit more weapons and a bit more maps from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield Bad Company 2, it feels a bit better, but it's still not even comparable to something like Battlefield 4. I do believe Battlefield 4, with all the DLCs combined, had something like 31 or 32 maps. That is a lot. That is a lot. Like weapons, Battlefield 2042 can't even come close to something like Battlefield 4. Can't even come close. So if that's something you care about, I have to inform you that lacking content is still one of the most ridiculous problems of this game. And I believe it will remain the main issue until forever. Because, they can't release 20 maps and 30 new weapons and an update, But that's really needed for the players to not feel that lack of content. So that's the reason why I believe it's going to remain the issue for Battlefield 2042 for its lifetime, because the lifetime is coming to an end and we don't have anything going on in the game. DICE is even performing very weak in terms of new events and new game modes and some things to kind of entertain the player base. And that's why the players come back in the beginning of every season and then just play for a few days and leave the game for Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 1. That's the main reason, because the content can't keep up with the expectations. The live service is trash. There's no event going on. If you enjoy the game, you enjoy it. If you don't, then there's nothing new for you to learn. There's nothing new to play, and you're going to just stop playing. Like, that's the basic thing and the logical thing for the player base to do, right? So a lot of people first bought this game for the 128 player modes. What I believe about 128 players in Battlefield 2042 or in any Battlefield title, it just doesn't work. Let's be honest. I've heard from one of my friends that DICE's previous team, who worked on Battlefield 4, actually tried implementing a 128 player mode in Conquest for Battlefield 4. And after a lot of tests and a lot of discussions back in the day, they just came to the conclusion that it doesn't work on Battlefield. That's it. That's the simple conclusion, and that's the logical and reasonable conclusion about 128 player modes. They just don't work. It's going to be too chaotic. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the servers. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the CPUs. Like Battlefield 2042 and every Battlefield title is heavily CPU bound. They put a lot of pressure on CPU, even on 64-player modes. Imagine what that pressure is going to be when playing 128-player modes. It's going to be awful. And that is still the case in Battlefield 2042. I personally lose like 15 to 20 FPS when playing 128 player modes. And that is a lot, because it puts a lot of pressure on the PC. The hit registration starts to get messy because the server is under a lot of pressure because of whatever's going on in the game, because things are getting too chaotic and it's hard for the server to actually compute what's going on. And that's that. If you can't implement it right, then just don't do it. And the player base is satisfied with 64 players. Nobody wanted 128. It was not the matter of discussion anywhere before Battlefield 2042 started this whole thing. So I do believe if you guys are buying the game for playing 128 player game modes, first of all, they still have optimization problems both on your PC and on the servers. And second of all, that's not just made for Battlefield. It's like hardcore. Hardcore has no place in Battlefield. 128 player modes have no place in Battlefield. Battlefield, if you want to buy the game for that, just don't do it. If your sole reason is playing those kind of game modes, then just don't do it, please. Don't waste your money on the game. And lastly, playing Battlefield 2042 on PC back in the day was a very hard struggle. It was not optimized at all. I do believe it's still not optimized to the point where almost everyone can play. It's still pretty much CPU bound, even more than previous titles with better graphics. Like Battlefield 1 was a monster when it came to graphics, and it just needed way less resources. And knowing that Battlefield 1 was a lot more chaotic and a lot more destruction was going on in Battlefield 1 compared to 2042, where it really lacks that kind of destruction, But with all that said, generally speaking, the performance, at least on PC, based on my experience, has got way, way better than even 6 months ago, than even 1 year ago, let alone comparing it to day one. So if you're worrying about that, if you have the game, but you just stopped playing because of performance issues, I do believe reinstalling the game and testing it one more time wouldn't be a bad decision. Maybe things are different now because, as I said, it just got better over time. Now, to answer the ultimate question with everything that I've just talked about, I do believe Battlefield 2042 is worth a try, at least right now in 2024. And the reason for that is Battlefield 5 is not a very complete game, let's say. It really has a lot of problems, just like Battlefield 2042 right now. And your only option will be Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1, which are, let's say, old games. And if you don't want to play in World War I and World War II era, then your only option will be Battlefield 4, which is pretty much a 10 or 11-year-old game. So if you want a modern Battlefield game, I do believe now is the time to consider buying 2042 because it's a way better game than it was before. It still has a lot of problems. It still lacks content. And as I said, it will definitely lack content for its lifetime, but it's enjoyable right now. At least you can come play and enjoy the game. And I'm not encouraging you to buy the game at its full price. You should definitely consider buying the game when it's on sale. So that's going to be the best decision for you. But overall, if you're new to the franchise, I believe starting with Battlefield 2042 kind of lowers your expectations from Battlefield. If you guys want to know what Battlefield feels like, truly what Battlefield truly feels like, you can play Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1. So you know what the perfect Battlefield is all about, and you can just compare it to Battlefield 2042 for yourself, or you can just buy Battlefield 2042 and then go watch videos about Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4 and see how those games are reviewed by the player base. If you guys are enjoying previous Battlefield titles right now, if you're playing Battlefield 1 and Battlefield V, I do believe you don't need Battlefield 2042 because there's nothing that Battlefield 2042 provides and they don't. Okay? So I hope I could just convey what I mean. Like, it doesn't provide anything new. If you're enjoying a Battlefield title, even if it's old, then I do believe you don't need to consider buying 2042 because you're having the fun time, and that's all right. And there are, generally speaking, better games. Personally, I'm not really into WW1 and WW2 eras, so I just moved straight from Battlefield 4 to Battlefield 2042 when I thought Battlefield 4 was kind of dying, let's say. And that's my own case, but if you guys are enjoying the Battlefield titles, so have fun and you don't need to buy Battlefield 2042. But if you guys are currently playing Battlefield 2042, I would really like to know what you guys think about the game and whether or not you think it's worth buying or not. Just leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Stay cool.